Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today's story is about a young girl who was abandoned at birth, raised in love, and later caught between two mothers, one who left her behind and one who chose her. From the pain of rejection to the warmth of belonging, from courtrooms to reconciliation, this story explores abandonment, resilience, forgiveness, and the meaning of family. Ready to dive in? Let's go.
I came into this world wrapped not in joy, but in fear. My biological mother was only 18 when she carried me in her womb, a frightened final-year student in senior high school, hiding more than her growing belly. She had dreams of graduation, of freedom, of moving on to a new life. But I was the secret she couldn't speak of, the shame she felt she couldn't carry home. Her father was a respected pastor in the community. To her, my existence meant disgrace, humiliation, and ruin. So she kept me hidden. She wore oversized uniforms, walked with her head bent, and prayed that no teacher, no classmate, and certainly not her family, would see what was quietly growing inside her. Only her grandmother knew. But her grandmother's words cut sharper than any blade. "You dare not bring that child home." It was in those words that my fate was sealed. Even before my first cry, before my tiny fists ever reached for her warmth, I was already an unwanted burden. When her time came, she labored in silence. No family gathered, no father held her hand, no mother whispered encouragement. It was just her boyfriend, and the heavy knowledge that once I arrived, I would not stay. And so it happened. I was born into the world, a little life gasping for breath, unaware of the decision already made. She did not cradle me to her chest. Instead, she and her boyfriend asked one question: where is the nearest orphanage? That was the beginning of my story, my mother's trembling hands leaving me behind, not because I had done anything wrong, but because she feared the eyes of the world more than she longed for me. The orphanage became my first home. Cold walls, crowded cribs, the cries of other children who, like me, had been left behind. For a year, I lay there, searching faces that came and went, waiting for the one that would return for me. But instead of a reunion, there was rejection. The orphanage reached out to my mother, pleading, suggesting that they could even help her explain to her family. "Your child deserves a home," they told her. But she and the man who fathered me answered with finality, "We don't want her. We want a relinquishment." The door to her love closed once more. And so, social services stepped in. My name was moved from one list to another, and I was placed into foster care. That is where Mama Jane found me. She was not my blood, but from the very first moment she held me, she decided I was hers. She wrapped me in warmth, fed me with patience, and soothed me with songs that carried both tenderness and strength. She was not wealthy, her home was modest, her hands always busy with work, but somehow she managed to provide me with everything I needed. I grew up never knowing hunger because she always made sure my plate was full, even if it meant hers was not. I remember the smell of her kitchen, the steam of hot rice and beans, the bubbling of light soup, the sound of her humming as she stirred. She taught me that food was not just nourishment, but love served on a plate. Clothing, too, was never lacking. She sewed little dresses for me with her own hands, bright patterns that made me feel special. On Christmas and Easter, she found a way to buy me something new, even if it meant saving coins for months. My shoes might not have been the fanciest, but they carried me with pride because they came from her sacrifice. Education was her highest gift to me. She believed deeply that books could take me where she could not. Every morning, she woke me early, tied my ribbon neatly, and walked me to school. When I stumbled over homework, she sat beside me, her limited schooling never holding her back from trying. If she couldn't help, she found someone who could. She told me, "Learn hard, my daughter. Your education is your wings." And because of her, I soared in classrooms that might have otherwise been closed to me. But beyond food, clothing, and education, she gave me something no money could buy: belonging. She called me her child in front of everyone. At family gatherings, I was not the foster child, I was her daughter. Her siblings became my aunties and uncles. Her children became my brothers and sisters. She wove me into her family fabric so tightly that even I sometimes forgot I wasn't born into it. And at night, when shadows stretched long and fear sometimes crept into my heart, she would sit by my bed, rubbing my back, whispering, "Don't cry, my child. You are safe here. You are mine." Those words were the foundation of my world. Words that told me, even without blood, I was wanted. 16 years passed that way, 16 birthdays, 16 Christmases, 16 seasons of plenty and lean alike. Through it all, she gave me not just what I needed to survive, but what I needed to grow into someone who believed she was loved. Then came my 16th birthday. I remember it so clearly, not because of what was planned, but because of what happened. The day had started like any other. I had returned from school, set my bag aside, and was eating lunch at the table. Mama Jane had made my favorite, rice and stew with fried plantain. The house smelled of love, of home, of everything familiar. I was mid-bite when a knock sounded at the door. It was not unusual for neighbors or friends to stop by, but the tone of the knock felt different, firm, deliberate. Mama Jane wiped her hands and went to open the door. Standing there was a woman from the orphanage, a social worker whose face I knew. But she was not alone. Behind her stood a woman I had never seen before, and beside that woman was a man, tall and serious. My fork stilled in my hand as my eyes studied them, my chest tightening with an unexplainable unease. They engaged with Mama Jane for about 20 minutes. Then the social worker turned to me and cleared her throat, her voice careful as she spoke. "This is your mother." The words hit me like thunder. The room tilted. My spoon slipped from my fingers, clattering against the plate. My mother. For 16 years, that word had been wrapped around one person, Mama Jane. But now, in one breath, it was being handed to a stranger. I looked at the woman closely. She was dressed neatly, her hair pulled back, her face painted with effort. She was no longer the scared 18-year-old girl who had left me. She was now a woman in her 30s, standing tall with a strange mixture of guilt and determination in her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to smile. She took a step forward, as though wanting to embrace me, but stopped when she saw the confusion on my face. And then, as if to steady herself, she turned to the man at her side. He reached for her hand, and in that moment I realized who he must be, her husband. Not my father. A new chapter in her life. The social worker explained, my mother had told her husband about me. She had 2 other children with him, children who bore her name and her love, children who had never known the silence of being abandoned. And now, she had come with him to meet me, to reclaim me. Behind me, I felt Mama Jane stiffen. Her body grew rigid, her eyes wide with a fear I had never seen before. In that instant, I understood what she feared most, that this woman, the one who had once left me behind, would now try to take me away. And indeed, her fears were not misplaced. My mother's voice was steady, though her eyes wavered as she spoke. "I am ready now. I want my daughter back." The words pierced the air, heavy and impossible. 16 years of silence, and now, suddenly, she was ready. The room seemed to shrink. My foster mother's heart, my own heart, the air between us all tightened with the weight of her claim. In that moment, I realized my life, once so steady, was about to be torn in two. Mama Jane stiffened. I could see the fear etched on her face, the same fear I had felt when the word mother was spoken. For 16 years, she had raised me. For 16 years, she had been the only mother I knew. And now, right in her living room, stood the woman who had once turned her back on me, asking to take me away. The room grew heavy with tension. My foster mother's voice trembled as she asked, "Why now?" But my biological mother had no explanation that could undo the years of absence. She only said she was ready. The social worker tried to mediate. She suggested that reunification would take time, that I would need to prepare emotionally. But my mother insisted. She wanted me home in 3 months. 3 months. As though 16 years of absence could be erased in 90 days. As though love could be switched on like a light. My foster family shook their heads, anger and heartbreak mingling in their voices. "We will never allow this. She is our child. We raised her. We love her." And I sat there, torn between two worlds, one that had abandoned me, and one that had embraced me. Night after night, I lay awake, my mind heavy with questions. Why had she left me? Did she think of me during those years? Did she ever wonder if I was hungry, if I was safe, if I cried myself to sleep. And now, why had she come back? Was it guilt? Was it pressure from her husband? Or did she suddenly remember she had another daughter in the world? I did not know what to feel. Part of me longed to know her, to understand her story. But a larger part of me was afraid that if I allowed her in, I would lose Mama Jane, the only mother who had ever stayed. The battle began. Meetings, arguments, visits from social workers. My foster family clung to me with desperation. My biological mother stood her ground, declaring that she had a right to me. Each conversation tore me apart, pulling me in opposite directions. I felt like a rope in a tug-of-war, stretched to the point of breaking. At school, I pretended everything was fine. But inside, I was drowning. Whose child was I? To whom did I belong? I watched Mama Jane suffer in silence. She had given me 16 years of her life, her heart, her love. The thought of losing me broke her spirit. I saw it in her eyes every time she looked at me, afraid that each moment might be the last. And I watched my biological mother's persistence. She would not let go. She wanted to reclaim what she once threw away. I stood in the middle, my heart heavy with conflicting loyalties. Life called to me on one side, love pulled me on the other. The story is still unfolding. Even now, the battle has not ended. I am still a child caught between two mothers, one who gave me life but abandoned me, and one who took me in and gave me love. I do not know where my path will lead. I do not know if my heart can forgive, or if my soul can survive the tearing. But this I know, I am more than my abandonment. I am more than the battle for my custody. I am a story of resilience, of longing, of love that refused to let go. And though my beginning was rejection, my journey is still being written, with tears, with hope, and with the stubborn strength of survival. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, yet the air around me never cleared. Every conversation at home seemed to circle back to the same question: would I stay, or would I go? The social workers came often now. They asked me questions I didn't know how to answer. Do you want to live with your biological mother? Would you like to spend weekends with her family? How do you feel about your foster family? How could I choose between the woman who gave me life and the woman who gave me love? My heart wanted to scream that I needed both, and yet neither seemed willing to share me. Eventually, the visits began. Short, awkward meetings with my biological mother, often in the presence of a social worker. She would smile nervously, ask about school, bring gifts wrapped in shiny paper. I wanted to be grateful, but the truth pressed heavy on me. Where were these gifts when I was a child longing for her arms? Her husband would come too, gentle but distant. He treated me kindly, but I could feel the thin veil of formality. His eyes sometimes lingered on me as though trying to measure how I fit into the family he already had. Then there were my half-siblings. Small, bright-eyed, unaware of the storm. They called her Mama easily, naturally. A word that caught in my throat like a thorn. At home with Mama Jane, the atmosphere had changed. She tried to stay strong, but her laughter was quieter now, her smile hesitant. She was terrified of losing me. I could see it in the way she held my hand longer than before, in the way she lingered by my door at night as though afraid I might disappear in my sleep. Sometimes I wondered if it would have been easier if my mother had never come back. If the silence of abandonment was easier to live with than the chaos of her sudden return. But life had other plans. The arguments escalated. My foster family insisted they would not release me. My biological mother insisted she was entitled to me. Social services stood in the middle, shuffling papers, setting dates for court hearings, trying to balance justice with compassion. For the first time, I began to see how powerless a child can feel in the hands of adults making decisions. Everyone was fighting for me, but no one seemed to hear me. And I, the girl at the center of it all, felt invisible. One evening, after a particularly tense meeting, I locked myself in my room and cried until my chest ached. I wrote in my diary, I didn't ask to be born. I didn't ask to be abandoned. I didn't ask to be found. So why must I be the one to carry all this pain? That was the first time I realized that healing would not come from either of my mothers. It would have to come from within me. The next weeks were filled with supervised visits. Sometimes, I sat silently while my biological mother tried to explain her choices. She told me about the shame she carried as a teenager, about her fear of her father, about the threats of her grandmother. She spoke of loneliness, of regret, of sleepless nights. Her words softened something in me, but they did not erase the truth. She still left me. She still walked away. And no apology could change the years she had missed. With Mama Jane, my bond only grew deeper. The more my biological mother pushed to reclaim me, the more I clung to the woman who had never let me go. Love was about showing up, about being there when it mattered, about staying. Yet a part of me longed for reconciliation, for some way to carry both truths without tearing myself apart. Could I love the mother who raised me while still forgiving the one who abandoned me? Could I belong to two families at once? The battle eventually moved into court. Lawyers spoke on behalf of my foster family and my biological mother. Papers were filed. Arguments were made. And through it all, I sat quietly in the back of the courtroom, a child whose fate was being decided by strangers in black robes. When the judge finally turned to me, asking me what I wanted, my voice trembled but did not break. I want to stay with the family that raised me. But I also want to know my mother. I don't want to lose either of them. The courtroom fell silent. For once, my voice mattered. The final decision was made. I would remain with Mama Jane as my legal guardian, but I would also have the right to build a relationship with my biological mother at my own pace. It was not a perfect solution, but it was a beginning. A fragile bridge between the past and the present. And so I live in the in-between. I belong fully to neither side, yet to both. I carry the scars of abandonment, but also the gift of unconditional love. My story is not simple, it is tangled, messy, painful, and yet, it is mine. I am learning that I can hold two truths at once. That my mother abandoned me. And that she came back. That Mama Jane is not my biological mother. But she is my heart. I do not know what the future will bring. Perhaps one day I will forgive completely. Perhaps one day I will see my mother not as the girl who left me, but as the woman who tried to come back. Perhaps my siblings will grow to know me not as a stranger, but as their sister. But for now, I am still learning, still healing, still finding my way. And as I narrate this, I hold on to one truth. Abandonment did not define me. Love did. I am the child who was left behind. I am the child who was chosen again. I am the child who survived both silence and storms. And I will not be forgotten, not by myself, not by the world, and not by the two women who, in their own broken ways, tried to be my mother.
My dear friends, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like for more of such stories.